Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Daybreak Fantasy Football News Show. I am your host, Jim Day. It is Tuesday, June 4th, and here's the news of the day. Don't forget, we are now a proud member of the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network, so make sure you follow them. You can follow them on Twitter using the hashtag FTF Podnet, FTFPODNET. Make sure to follow us. We have lots of new programming, 14 pods in total, over 26 hours of weekly programming. Got to get into that, folks. A lot of great stuff going on. So let's get into today's news. Once again, more news dumping on Todd Gurley. Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network and NFL.com saying that he will not be the bell cow back anymore. He just won't get those kind of touches. We kind of knew that. We kind of saw that coming. Hopefully you listened to yesterday's podcast about this. I talked about it already. I expect him to take a little hit in touches. I expect him to take a little bit of a hit in numbers, but not to the extent that people are bailing on him now. Be a wise investor. Stay on Gurley. Take the little bit of value. If you can get him in the second round as your RB2 or as your RB1, after grabbing a stud wide receiver in the first round, great start. Do it every day. Don't fret it. Henderson is going to be a good back. He's going to have his role, but he still has some things to learn at this level. Let's see how fast he gets there. In other news, for you Jets fans, we got some happy news. LeVeon Bell showed up for OTAs, for the mandatory OTAs. He wasn't there for the voluntary ones, but he's there now. He even got into camp a day early. So he's there. He's ready to work. But let's temper expectations for LeVeon Bell, people. Coming off a year where he didn't play at all, when he did sign, he was out of shape. He needs to get back into shape. I'm not doubting that he will. I am not. But a year off can definitely lead to some rustiness. They probably won't use him a lot in preseason. We're probably not going to see a lot of major starters for any team a ton this preseason. You're going to have to get whatever you can get off of them in training camp, because I just don't think we'll see a lot of them playing in preseason this year. But back to Bell. Temper expectations. This is a guy who, went from a team with a Pro Bowl quarterback, a Pro Bowl wide receiver, one of the best offensive lines in the game, to a Jets team with a second-year quarterback that, will get better. I absolutely believe that. I think he has the tools to get better. He did get better at the end of last year after coming back from the injury. It was almost like the injury allowed him to slow down, absorb a little bit more of the game. When he came back, he was playing better football. Robbie Anderson is a decent wide receiver, but nowhere near the power of Antonio Brown. And then the other weapons around him are, they're good, but they're nothing special. When you add that to the fact that this offensive line the Jets have is one of the worst in the game, they're just not good at run blocking and not that good at pass blocking either, then it leads to issues for Bell. One of the things we know about Bell is that he's a very patient runner. He likes to dance around behind that line, wait till his linemen create those good holes for him to get through. He's not going to have that luxury behind the Jets' offensive line. He's going to need to be able to hit those holes fast. He's going to need to get in there as quick as he can and stop pussyfooting around behind that offensive line. Because if he starts pussyfooting around back there, the offensive line is going to get him killed. So he's going to have to become a much more decisive runner, hit the hole as soon as it opens, no matter how big, and just go with it. Believe me, I'm not saying that he's going to be a waste. He's not going to do anything. Hey, he's an extremely talented runner. He's still going to have a very good year. But the fact that he's being drafted over guys like David Johnson, Joe Mixon, even Todd Gurley at this point, I think is wrong. I think he's going to fall back a little bit just because the team around him isn't as good a supporting cast as what he's had in the past. And the system isn't as good as what he's had in the past. So I just don't see why all of a sudden he's being moved back into that top 5, 6 conversation. I just don't think he's there on this team. So be wary about Le'Veon Bell. Looks like Detroit has some issues going on, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Damon Snacks Harrison, one of my old Giants guys, and somebody I really liked playing with the Giants, and I was sad to see him go. And star cornerback for Detroit, Darius Slay, are both looking to get renewed contracts, holding out of mandatory OTAs to try and get those deals done. Look, Detroit, you don't really have a choice. If you want to be competitive this year, you got to find a way to get these two guys signed in camp and happy, and you need to do it now. These are two linchpins of your defense. You need to get them involved and going. Now, on the opposite side of the coin, let's say they screw this up and one or both of these guys don't come into play for Detroit or hold out or whatever the myriad of things that they could possibly do in this situation. But if it happens on the negative side, then that actually might be a positive for fantasy football players because if this defense plays worse, then this offense is going to have to make up for the difference. I know they want to be a run heavy offense. We've seen Matt Stafford's attempts go way down over the last few years. If this defense doesn't step up, if they don't get these two guys signed, this defense will take a major hit. And because of that, the offense will have to throw more. They will have to put the ball in the air to try and stay in games. So, keep an eye on this situation because, again, it's good for the Lions if they can get these two guys signed into their defense. Absolutely. But it could be good for fantasy if they can't. So just keep that in mind. Watch this situation unfold because this will be a big one for them. It could have intriguing options for fantasy footballers. That's the news today. This is, again, Daybreak Fantasy Football News Show. I'm your host, Jim Day. You can follow me on Twitter at FantasyTaz. And it is Tuesday, June 4th. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Have a great day.